Recently, KPS was in the news regarding highly visible cases of violence in the classroom. If you are a current board member, what trainings are you aware of? If not, what would you recommend or suggest? What is your knowledge of reasonable use of force? What other trainings are presently used, or what would you suggest that keep our teachers safe? Jermaine.
Yeah, I certainly think that an increase of security in the buildings is an understatement. I think that's something that can help, and also they do need to be properly trained. I understand that there may be come a time where a student perhaps have to be restrained for whatever reason, if they're doing harm to themselves or to someone else in some case. And so I think it needs to be a person that is trained on how to do so. And I don't think, and every teacher also should be aware if it's a child that has any challenges that will cause a disturbance if you put your hands on them and different things like that. Everyone needs to be aware of those things so you know how to handle each student if there is an outbreak of issues. But certainly, I think an increase of security presence, and then also proper training for all of our teachers, and not just teachers, but our subs. We have so many subs all the time in these classrooms, and they're not trained.
Thank you. Jason.
Yeah, I think we need to have better trained security in the school. Need to have more security, and also, like Jermaine said, we need to have the teachers able to be trained so that they can intervene in a proper way. And as far as physical restraint, I think that should be a last resort. It should be only when absolutely necessary, but and it should be done in a way that ensures the safety of the student and of the staff.
Thank you. Andy.
I have a hard time understanding how increased security addresses the root cause of violence in our schools. I think that if our response when these things happen is to hire more security guards, put in more metal detectors, invite more police officers in our school, then we're headed for disaster. We need to make sure that all of our staff members receive trauma training. ACEs, the ACEs initiative has been awesome. A lot of staff members and teachers have taken advantage of that. That needs to be mandatory across the board, so everyone who is in contact with students, has that understanding of where they're coming from and how their reactions make sense developmentally. I think that we need to look at restorative justice and restorative practices in our school in a comprehensive way, not just a couple of little stopgap measures, because that's something that can get at the root cause of conflict with our kids and find out what their needs are. That's it for that.
Thank you. Craig, we need to have you.
Yeah, all the staff is getting ALICE training. It's for safety of the schools. It's even the security officers and staff is getting it. There's different PDs or personal development that the teachers are getting to help out with the safety. Only trained people are to restrain people, and there's training for that that is given to certain people within each building, how to handle these different flares up. There's different groups that are in each building that handles the flare up that are trained.
So I just wanted to follow up with, I just wanted to maybe correct something that it doesn't, I guess, send a distortion. So when I think, well, at least for myself, when I say increase of security, I'm certainly not suggesting that that's an increase in public safety in our schools. I happen to know a lot of the security guards that's been there for years. One just retired, he was there when I was in school. And I know that a lot of the students get to know him. And so I think it is important for them to see that presence. And I think, again, when we're talking about a district that is increased with students, it just makes sense to increase security as well, just as a safety measure. And again, that they are properly trained, because I don't think it's the teacher's job, because all the teachers are not going to be properly trained to restrain a student if something outbreaks in the classroom, but you do need to have security that is trained to do so.
Thank Thank you. Do we have any other follow-ups or rebuttal?
I would actually like to follow up on the training piece of this. So Craig mentioned that anyone who is, permitted to use restraints or force on our students receives training for that. I would like to ask Craig to, illuminate us on what sort of training they receive and how that differs between our school security officers and the SROs, the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety officers that are in our schools. Because after talking to Don Weber, it is my understanding that the public safety officers in our schools receive no additional training related to working in the school environment or working with youth. They don't get that ACEs training either, and as a result, we have things happening where students are tased. Children, small children. I mean, we're talking about a kid 100, maybe 120 pounds, getting tased in our schools by police officers. We have police officers using pepper spray. I want to know what kind of training KPS requires of those individuals.
Of the Kalamazoo public safety officers?
Yes, and our security staff.
The officers, their training comes through their police department.
So KPS doesn't require any additional training, specific to.
I am not sure on that at this moment. I'm not gonna speak and be falsehood, or be
Right.
false on it.
Understand.
But they're like staff that work with special needs children and stuff, they get the proper training that they need for working with those students. I know even security's going through the Alice training. I mean, there's so much PD that they go through on, I'm not sure what the names of the programs that they're going through.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a follow-up or rebuttal to that?
Well, I was just going to say, and I think, again, got a little challenge there. When I say one of my top regards is safety, I mean that. And so one of the things I also believe in is that we also should have, when you talked about the fights and different things, the increase of violence, I think it's also important that those that are victimized, that they also need to be recovered as well. And so we need the increase of mentorship. If it's, I've seen meditation be very well for kids, that their mind is not overstimulated and that they have a time to just focus on themselves, because we don't know the problem, the trauma that they're coming into when they come into the schools, if they've been in contact with the public safety before they got to school, if something happened at home the night before. So I think that it's important also that we get them counselors and mentorship.